Mutwati, Dean of Arts, representative of Foreign Affairs and International Trade Ministry, representative of UBRPZ UNESCO Regional Resident Coordinator, dear colleague ambassador from Italia and Spain, head of agency, teacher and students, representative of the civil society, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends. As you know, art and culture, and of course archaeology, are in the DNA of the French civilization, as they are in many other European countries, especially in Italy and Spain. As example, in 2019, France supports and funds 159 projects in 78 different countries, including Zimbabwe. The priority for France is to develop the academic training, professional training, and to encourage the local development, for instance, by a tourism enhancement with the involvement of the communities. The French embassy to Zimbabwe, who sponsored the restoration of Kami site over 10 years ago, has been committed for the past 4 years in a venture with the Zimbabwean authorities for promoting knowledge, awareness, and protection of rock paintings in Zimbabwe. It started in 2015 by the support given at the Congress of the Association of the Southern African Archaeologists held in Harare. It was consolidated beginning of 2016 by a visit in Zimbabwe of a delegation run by the director of the French Regional Research Institute of South Africa, which met the major institutional and academic partners and carried out visits on site. One of the main conclusions was the extreme richness of the Zimbabwean archaeological heritage. In this framework, a French expert from the French Laboratory of Research of Historical Monuments, Madame Touron, at the request of the embassy and with the support of UNESCO, organized a one-week technical training session on the protection of rock paintings in Harare and in the field for the National Museum and monument technicians and executives. The embassy in September 2017 provided its support to the first exhibition focused on rock paintings organized by the National Gallery and by the National Museum and Monuments. The major target of this exhibition was to raise the awareness about the amazing heritage displayed in the garden of the National Gallery. During 3 months, this exhibition has been very successful. It founded in 2018 a booklet on rock paintings in Zimbabwe aimed at children between 10 and 14 years, set up in close relation with the Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education, printed and launched with Mukuvisi Woodland. Notably, the French Minister of Foreign Affairs granted support for 4 years to a team co-headed by Zimbabwean and French experts present, Ansila Lamo, lecturer at UZ, and Camille Bourdier, lecturer at Toulouse, to carry out excavations in Matopos to support the Museum of Human Sciences in Harare, and also to initiate a cooperation between the University of Toulouse and UZ by training and training students. We have been building for a long time, and may I insist, for a long time, a partnership with National Museum and Monuments, UZ, UNESCO, Mukuvisi Woodlands, and the National Gallery. We have been keen on sharing and creating a synergy with the embassies of Italy and Spain. It's done now with this symposium, a milestone for raising the awareness of the Zimbabwean archaeological heritage. The other EU member states will be welcome to come on board and to provide a sustainable support to the Zimbabwean heritage. Zimbabwe can be proud of its archaeological heritage, like the rock art, whose worth is both scientific and artistic importance, and is representative of an outstanding universal value. It could benefit to the country, in particular to the communities, by allowing the development of cultural tourism. I wish this exceptional heritage will contribute to build the identity for a young nation like Zimbabwe. I would like to conclude by wishing every success for the symposium. Thanks for your attention.
Thank you, His Excellency, and thank you once again for the support. I will quickly call upon His Excellency, the Ambassador of Italy, Carlo Perato. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, my country, Italy, is committed to supporting Zimbabwe in the preservation and sustainable promotion of its vast archaeological resources. We're ready to do it financially, culturally, intellectually, and as of today, physically. So, the protection of the cultural heritage has been a priority in my country, Italy, and my country has developed into a model, a role model, from the institution from which the guest speaker will be addressing you today is based in Italy, because we are very proud of our national heritage, and we have been investing a lot in the preservation and promotion of our national heritage. Italy is a role model, and as such, a role model speaks for itself, which, luckily enough, released the ambassador from the hard task of having anything meaningful to say about it. And I'm very, very happy, therefore, to leave the hard task of lecturing you on the protection of national heritage to the experts that are present today. So, I should learn how to better number my pages, but anyway, more or less, I hope this is making some sense. I would really wish to express my sincere gratitude to the Dean of the Faculty of Arts for giving me the opportunity to take part in the symposium. Maybe the biggest thank you to Richard Godin, the French ambassador, for bringing the topic of the protection of the Zimbabwean archaeological heritage up at the European level, which triggered the participation by Spain and Italy. And also a big thank you to UNESCO, its regional director, and also my very good friend Amir. And so I wish really everybody a fruitful morning and an enjoyable learning of how to better promote and protect the national heritage of the country. Thank you very much.
Thank you, His Excellency. We have many research proposals ready that are crying and shouting for funding. So soon we shall be knocking on your doors for funding to be able to protect our heritage. Thank you very much. Let's move on and call the representative for the ambassador of Spain, Cecilia.
Well, Excellencies, distinguished speakers and participants, just a couple of ideas. We are particularly pleased to take part in this symposium. Spain is fully engaged with the 1972 World Heritage Convention. We firmly believe that some places in the world are so important that their protection is not only the responsibility of the nation where they are geographically located, but it is also the responsibility of the international community as a whole, and not only for this generation, but for all those to come. As part of its deep engagement with the convention, Spain has become, since last year, a member state of the World Heritage Committee, in order to contribute with his experience to the efforts aimed to achieve a better protection, management, and diffusion of World Heritage. Spain is the third country in the world with the highest number of sites included in the UNESCO World Heritage list. We have 47 sites. There is probably one thing that makes Spanish heritage unique, and it is that no other country offers such a mixture of cultures. We are very proud of it, of course, but above all, it implies a huge responsibility and a continuous challenge for our public administration and for all the actors involved in the conservation and management of our heritage. The archaeological site of Atapuerca is one of these 47 Spanish sites included in the World Heritage list. We consider the innovative and comprehensive management of the Spanish site of Atapuerca a great example of how to successfully connect heritage and culture with tourism, with employment, with city management, with local development, with education, with social inclusion, and with promotion of well-being and human rights. I would like to thank our expert today, Alejandro Sarmiento, who is the Managing Director of the Atapuerca System and the Museum of Human Evolution in Burgos, Spain, for being willing to come to Zimbabwe to share his experience in this symposium. And I would also like to thank the Spanish Ministry of Culture for its support. From the embassy, what we hope is that our participation in this symposium today will be a starting point to explore further cooperation and exchange of experiences with Zimbabwe in this field, also in line with the Convention and the idea of universality and international cooperation in this field. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Your Excellency. It is heartening to note that at the end of it all, we should be able to manage, utilize, and protect our heritage better. Thank you. Let me call upon all your program is supposed to be UNESCO, but let me call upon the Executive Director for National Museums and Monuments, the custodians of our heritage, then who will have the UNESCO representative of Southern Africa. Thank you, Dr. Maj.
The representative of the Vice Chancellor, Your Excellencies, the representative of the UNESCO Sub-Regional Office, Mr. Yakovich, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is I think an honor for us to be here this morning to discuss what I think is a very important matter for this country. The protection and use of national heritage. I think Zimbabwe started very well at independence by recognizing its premier archaeological site, the Great Zimbabwe, and naming the country after this archaeological site. I think that was a very good start. it kind of demonstrated that there is something about this country that really defines the country. Yes, we've got the great Zimbabwe, but it's only one among hundreds of other similar structures scattered throughout Zimbabwe, and of course into neighboring South Africa, Botswana, and Mozambique. It's an archaeological resource that should give us more than just a national identity. When we manage archaeological resources, as National Museums and Monuments of Zimbabwe, our expectation would be that there is more to that resource than just the history, the pride of the past. The expectation is that Zimbabweans in general, particularly the communities that look after these heritage sites, these archaeological sites, should benefit something from that resource. I think my experiences over the years is that Zimbabwe still needs to do a lot in terms of ensuring that the archaeological resources that we have in abundance are also an economic resource for the communities. And my hope is that this symposium will look into this issue much more closely to see how we can unlock that value so that the economic development of communities can actually be hinged on the archaeological resources that we have. We have 3 sites on the World Kami, and you have got the cultural landscape of the Matokos. Beautiful archaeological sites. I like Kami quite a lot after the restoration work that we did over the past number of years. It has turned out that it's one of the most beautiful archaeological sites that this region has. But when you look at the figures or the statistics in terms of visitorship, just how many people are actually enjoying this heritage, the figures are disappointing. I'm not sure it's because people are not interested, but there must be something we are not doing right. The excellences that we have today in their respective countries, the amount of tourism that is generated around archaeological sites is massive. And that translates to economic benefit. These are experiences that we think we need to get. How can we transform our archaeological heritage from just being places of historical interest into places where economic activity becomes part? So my hope is that at the end of the day, we will have had some insights into some of these critical issues that really the ordinary people out there have been looking forward for many years, to get. They want to actually use the archaeological resources for their economic development. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mahashi. We're really looking forward to a rewarding day today. I will quickly move on and kindly request Professor Hilbert to address us.
Thank you, Director Simons. If I'm being correct, unfortunately, Professor Heisen wasn't able to join us today. I am not Professor Hubert Heisen. I'm David Jankovic. I am a Regional Culture Advisor for Southern Africa in our UNESCO office here based in Harare, covering 9 countries in the continental part of Southern Africa. I'm also Mkwasha, married to Zimbabwe. Thank you very much. And for the colleagues here, I am also an archaeologist. I am actually an underwater archaeologist that was sent to Zimbabwe. Now, if there are question marks, believe me, that's completely normal. I have these question marks for the past 20 years, but you don't ask questions because these are new experiences and I have learned a lot, enormously, since my several visits to Zimbabwe. I recently based here. I was initially based here in 1994, but I have returned now in 2014. Protocols regards, Your Excellencies, UZ, senior management, staff, but most importantly students, that I see here many, my colleagues from the National Museum and Monuments and other dear colleagues here at the department at UZ. Now, the disadvantage of being the last in the row of initial speeches is that I have everything here, and everything out of this has already been mentioned by my predecessors, so I will try not to repeat too many things. I'm particularly glad that this is just yet another one event in our cooperation between bilateral embassies and UNESCO as a regional office. We are trying through these kind of activities to bring in the regional component. Now, one of the things in this context, we know that there are over 14,000 rock art heritage sites in Southern Africa. This is one of many great richness that we have in Southern Africa, and Dean actually mentioned other aspects of heritage like intangible cultural heritage. UNESCO particularly works on the aspects of intangible cultural heritage. Now, one of the things that I always try to accentuate in this kind of addresses is that we have to recognize, and particularly in Zimbabwe, not only the physical richness of heritage, but also the richness of expertise. In past 25 years, I have met a great number of colleagues coming exactly from this university, as well as other Zimbabwean universities dealing with conservation and management of cultural heritage. The challenges that we are trying to address in this symposium is a continuous challenge for at least past, I'm not going to exaggerate, 20 years, that the culture and heritage experts, community, ourselves, we are trying to define what exactly is the role of this resource, non-renewable resource, because once destroyed, once lost, it's very difficult to restore it in its previous state, although we did some successful examples, some of the World Heritage Sites even, like the Historical City Center of Warsaw, or now the ongoing question of restoration of Buddhas in Bamiyan in Afghanistan that have been destroyed. Regardless, once lost, it's very hard to have it again, but the fact is, what we do have, how does this contribute to the economic development? This has been accentuated already in the period of, for those who will remember, Millennium Development Goals, and number of activities in this context, actually sponsored in a big way by the government of Spain in that period of time. That was the period preceding the period of sustainable development goals that we are in now. And the number of activities during the Millennium Development Goals period was actually linking heritage resources and tourism. And we know that tourism is particularly cultural tourism, is one of the key elements that we have to look at in terms of finding ways how the local communities, or as we would call them, the bearers of heritage, direct owners of this heritage, can benefit from it. Now, I have here some numbers that I believe I could use because they were not mentioned. We know the tourism sector contributes for over 10% globally to global GDP, and that every job in core tourism sector can create about 1.5 additional or indirect jobs in the tourism-related economy. I think these are indicators that give us a strong indication of the direction. Now, this symposium is one of those events, and I would particularly like to look at young people, the students, who will have to, and I believe they already did, understand of our work in terms of conservation, and that part that we define as management of cultural heritage, that leads us to understanding how and to which extent we can and should use heritage for the benefit of the social and economic development of the local communities. I think this is the key question that we are looking at here. I believe that Zimbabwe did many moves in this direction. The challenge right now is to see in the economic challenging period that we are looking at right now, where are we going to go from here? Now, my concern as an archaeologist, as a specialist in heritage conservation, is how to define that fine line where we use heritage in this direction, and what is, sometimes we define, carrying capacity of heritage site that can accept a certain number of visitors until the point that it may get damaged, and sometimes irreversible. I will stop here. I mean, as an archaeologist, I could continue for 2 hours, and I believe this is going beyond a welcoming and opening speech. I would like to conclude to thank again our partners from French, Italian, and Spanish embassy, UZ hosting this important event, and all the professional community that participates in this thing. And I'm seriously looking forward to the outputs of this meeting and how this meeting can define our cultural policies of Zimbabwe and educational policies of Zimbabwe that can put forward these resources so important and so rich in Zimbabwe and the region for the sustainable development. I thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mkwasha. My very sincere apologies. Thank you. One or two housekeeping before I call upon our next chair, Professor Gilbert Gucci, for the next session. The restrooms, if you just go out this door, you turn right, you'll find the restrooms. I also want to make an announcement about the posters you read about the funding, the cooperation. You am kindly requesting everyone to also take time after or during the health break to go through the posters. They are the evidence of cooperation and funding from, they are here, the rock art to my right. We've got other posters outside, and the Volkswagen funded research project, the past and the present, which is based in northwestern Zimbabwe. Thank you. Let me call upon Professor Gucci to chair the next session.
Thank you very much, Director of Ceremonies. This symposium has been divided into 3 sessions. Each of the sessions complementing each other. And we are now entering or going into that session where perhaps a group actually meet, as it were, of the symposium is the various presentations from different specialists on different aspects of archaeological resources, utilization, and so on. It is therefore my pleasure to call upon my very good friend and colleague, Dr. Paul Mpira, to come and present on an overview of archaeological resources, presumably in Zimbabwe. We are not going global, I hope. Thank you very much.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My presentation is on the archaeological resources. And I guess I will be speaking to non-archaeologists mostly, because if you are an archaeologist, then most of the stuff will be boring, because it is the basic stuff about what archaeology is and the archaeological resources that we find in Zimbabwe. The term archaeological resources is widely used by heritage managers. And in archaeology, archaeological resource means any material remains of past human life or activities, which are of archaeological interest. A resource ordinarily is a source or a supply from which a benefit is produced. It is something that is valued because it is or it can be useful. Social, economic, and scientific and political progress. The attributes of a resource is that it is considered finite and consequently non-renewable. Archaeological resources are often regarded like that. They are a scarce resource which is non-renewable. And they are different from other forms of heritage that can be recreated. Because of their ascribed values, archaeological resources represent the things we want to keep. Things of value which have been passed from one generation to the next. So the resource, therefore, requires protection and preservation for public access and future use. Hence, it needs to be properly managed. And to show the centrality of archaeological resources to nations, various legal frameworks the world over aim to protect this non-renewable resource for public benefit. As an example, in Zimbabwe, there is a specific law, the National Museums and Monuments of Zimbabwe, Act Chapter 2511, that protects all ancient monuments and relics of archaeological, historical, and scientific interest. And globally, state agencies are now encouraged to present, preserve, and to work closely with various stakeholders in stewarding and safeguarding archaeological resources. Section 16 of the Zimbabwe Constitution exhorts the state and all institutions and agencies of government at every level and all Zimbabwean citizens to endeavor to preserve and protect Zimbabwe's heritage. And internationally, the World Heritage Convention also recognizes the value of heritage resources, and it is the duty of each state party to ensure identification, promotion, conservation, and preservation, as well as the transmission of heritage to future generations. And archaeological resources are part of this heritage. In Zimbabwe, archaeological resources are made up of objects, sites, and monuments, as well as landscapes. And therefore, my presentation will give an outline of this heritage, as well as a proposal that if Zimbabwe wishes to progress in the social, economic, and scientific fronts, archaeological resources have to play some important role in all these four broad integrated fronts in the present as well as in the future. The record of archaeological resources attests to a series of innovations and inventions of technology that make our lives livable today. These innovations and inventions include stone tool technologies, the control of fire, art, textiles, ceramic containers, agriculture, and stone architecture. And Zimbabwe bears evidence of these major inventions of the basic archaeological sequence in Zimbabwe can be divided into the Stone Age and the Iron Age. And there are 8,372 archaeological sites on the archaeological database. But I think they could be over 12,000, given that some of our databases are outdated. And the basic division that we have here as developments everywhere else in the Southern African region. But when we look at the maps, there are a lot of archaeological gaps, which means that we still need to do quite a lot of work to cover some of the areas that have not been covered. On these maps, you see the distribution of the archaeological resources in Zimbabwe. And there are also other important sites that we look after, the national monuments. If you go to the next slide, please. All right, national monuments, only 169 of those sites are protected and monitored more regularly when we compare to the vast majority of the sites that I showed you on the earlier slide. And of all the 169 monuments that we have in Zimbabwe, 72 of those are archaeological sites. And it has already been mentioned that we have 3 archaeological sites which are World Heritage: Great Zimbabwe, Matopos, Kami, and also 2 sites, again archaeological on the tentative list, that is Ziwa in Nyanga, as well as Nalatali. Now, the innovations that I have talked about earlier on are evident throughout the archaeological record. And I will start with the Stone Age hunter-gatherer sequence, which I've talked about in Zimbabwe. It has 3 phases on the basis of stone tool typology, the early, middle, and later. But I'll stick to the major innovations that I think are quite significant in the Stone Age, which are attested in the archaeological record in Zimbabwe. And that includes the various types of stone tools, the stone tool technology, beginning with the Archaeology here in Zimbabwe, all the way to the Tupi, which is the latest, up to 2000 BC. The other important innovation that we can talk about, which is also attested in the Zimbabwean archaeological record, includes various types of ceramic, various types of containers. Right, those are the stone tools, then the containers, all right? All this is found in the archaeological record. And we can also include one of the innovations, possibly clay pots. In Zimbabwe, it is not very clear, although we have Bambata pottery, which is in the terminal phases of the Stone Age. Some say it is early Iron Age, some say it could be associated with Stone Age hunter-gatherers. Then we also have items of personal adornment. These are found in various archaeological sites in different parts of Zimbabwe. And of interest, one major innovation, the use of baskets to gather and store dry foods. If you look at the next slide, the next one, right? In that picture, you see some of the baskets that I'm talking about in the center of the image. That is part of the heritage that past societies have left to us. Then rock art is depicted on various animal and human murals painted on caves, walls, which has symbolic as well as representational significance. All these innovations are depicted in Zimbabwe's archaeological record. After the Stone Age in Zimbabwe, we move on to the Iron Age. And the Iron Age is divided into two major phases, the early Iron Age as well as the later Iron Age. And as you saw on some of the maps that I showed you earlier, the bulk of our known and recorded archaeological sites belong to this period. And there are various developments that took place within the early Iron Age and the later Iron Age of Zimbabwe. And again, focusing on the major innovations that I think, or improvements that I think are attested in our archaeological record. This includes the iron technology, right? And this is widespread. Traditional iron industries, which continued in many parts, in many areas up to the beginning of the 20th centuries. Although in terms of dating, our own iron production is quite late when you consider developments elsewhere, for example, in Europe. But I feel that there are certain innovations which are peculiar to this region. And the advent of iron tools led to colossal social changes across the world. And in Africa, the Iron Age changes opened up new styles of living to many cultures, including those in the South Zambezia region, that is our own part of the continent. And one of the major innovations there includes agriculture. We have significant developments in agricultural activities throughout, but what I want to highlight is the agricultural terracing, which we have in the eastern highlands of Zimbabwe. Of course, we have terracing area in the other regions, but specific to this area, which I find unique, is the use of stone-lined pits to keep livestock. If you look at agricultural terracing elsewhere and the various developments, I think the stone pit structure is quite unique to the Zimbabwean context. Artisanal gold mining led into the creation of substantial wealth and leading to For example, the manufacture of different items in gold, in bronze, and in copper. Right? These various objects are attest to these developments in the archaeological record of Zimbabwe. And then urbanization is one key component that took place also within the Zimbabwean Iron Age. We have the development of major urban centers which are linked to the development and the creation of this wealth. Social complexity began to emerge. And one of the biggest urban centers that we have in the archaeological record is Great Zimbabwe, which had a substantial scale in space as well as in time. Throughout Zimbabwe, you find quite a number of these cities, some of them already on the World Heritage List. If you talk about Kami, you talk about Nalatali, all these are part of this huge development of urbanization. And the previous slide showed you quite a lot of valuable artifacts that we have. And we saw in that slide some beads, glass beads, as well as other imported ceramics. The developments within this phase of the archaeological record led to regional and international, as well as intercontinental networks. We had quite a lot of trade contacts with other communities in the region, as well as internationally. Now, what is the importance of this record that we have? When the Dean was presenting, I think he highlighted some of the issues related to the importance of archaeological resources. Do these things that I have shown you in brief matter? Why do we preserve these ancient things and sites and monuments? And to quote one who say 1849, who said, a people with respect for themselves and their independence cannot possibly rest content with a consideration of their present circumstances. They must also, of necessity, look at the past to learn how they became what they are. Only when this is clear in their minds can a people fully understand their heritage and work with zeal for future progress. The main spheres in which people may wish to progress generally include the social, economic, and political and scientific fronts. And archaeological resources have some important roles to play in all these fronts, in the present and in the future. And the problem that we have is how do we connect archaeology with these bigger issues that I'm talking about? How can we make sure that we connect archaeology with economy, archaeology with social development, archaeology with scientific developments? Preservation of archaeological resources maintains the level of cultural capital and generates multi-dimensional social benefits, like social identity, which has already been mentioned. Identity, which has already been mentioned. The link is so strong that throughout the country, archaeological places of significance are often the focus of conflict between groups. You know, who owns the site? Who has the right, for example, to benefit from it? Great Zimbabwe is not out of that controversy of ownership. We had a recent case in the Midlands, in the Eastern region, where in the Les Farm case, where communities are resisting eviction in order to protect their cultural heritage. So archaeological resources are important in assisting us to define who we are as individuals, who we are as communities, as well as the culture of a nation. And social appreciation of that heritage provides a positive value to the past, as well as the motivation to preserve archaeological sites. And according to Clark, heritage is a powerful mirror. Those who do not see themselves reflected in it are therefore excluded. The economic importance of heritage has already been highlighted. The value of archaeological resources for tourism and recreation has always been recognized. And preferred holiday activities usually include visits to well-known archaeological heritage sites and monuments. And archaeological sites and monuments are now being given considerable prominence in Zimbabwe's domestic and international tourism marketing strategies. National museums and monuments derives most of its income, for example, from tourism activities at the various monuments that we have, and most importantly from Great Zimbabwe. The political importance of heritage is also well known. One of the important functions of archaeological resources is the creation of national and ethnic symbols of identity. And the use of archaeology to create identities means that the meaning and symbolism of heritage may have political ends. And we formulate identities by choosing effective symbols and myths. And one of the most powerful myths that was generated about Great Zimbabwe was that, it was not a local invention or a local development. So it became a symbol of strength and stature with which it became identified and became a rallying point for the Black national history. And for our colleagues who are joining us from the education sector, I think archaeology has significant educational significance. It is through the study of the remnants of the past that we are able to generate information about past lifeways as well as technologies. The scientific study of the past material culture makes significant contribution to knowledge upon which our action and treatment of archaeological resources is based. That knowledge is increasingly being used to or related to in solving modern problems. For example, if you look at problems of soil erosion, we see some communities, for example, in the Eastern Highlands, reverting back to the use of terracing. Problems of water, people are resorting to the use of water furrows in the Eastern Highlands again to supply water to their fields. The structural problems that we find in dry stone walling, we are resorting to traditional stone masons in order to build more stable walls. So monuments and sites may be used also in formal and informal educational programs and awareness campaigns. And Zimbabwe is currently implementing a new national curriculum in which archaeological resources will play a key part as teaching aids. And the thinking behind the new curriculum in Zimbabwe is to develop individuals who have a collective responsibility for protecting and investing in their cultural, natural, and liberation heritage, and wealth creation for period. It develops the spirit of national consciousness and molds the human character, which is the foundation of Ubuntu or Ubuntu, the social norms and values. And archaeological resources will become key teaching aids or resources for out-of-classroom learning. And in a multicultural country like Zimbabwe, archaeological heritage serves to convey a greater understanding of our own past and other cultures. The last part of my presentation looks at the future of this archaeological heritage. How can we ensure that this long record of human existence is preserved? And the challenge of the archaeological strategy is how best to bridge the divide between the high degree of importance that we archaeologists, together with some individuals and communities, place in the archaeological resources, and the relatively low political profile or low level of support that archaeological resources have. It is against this background that we have to fight for the cause for conservation and the cause for the transmission of the archaeological record to future generations. It is also a background characterized by the somewhat low awareness, public awareness and appreciation of what archaeological resources are and what archaeology aims to achieve. And this lack of awareness is apparent at various levels in both the public, private sectors. One of the biggest threats to the archaeological resources in Zimbabwe, I think, is development. Archaeological heritage issues are often not identified at all when development plans are being put in place, or the archaeology is considered late such that it may not be possible to do proper mitigation. And despite the existence of the powerful act that I've talked about, as well as the guidelines that have been developed by national museums and monuments on how to approach pre-development archaeological impact assessments, we are still not very well organized. As such, sites are often destroyed in development because there is no effective legal enforcement mechanisms and good rescue systems. And currently there is no systematic national data on patterns of loss of archaeological resources, and as a result it is difficult to develop risks and challenges of development planning. And as a result, we continue to see quite a lot of destruction. In some cases, people are innocently taking stones, for example, from monuments and build very nice houses. And that's in Ghana. The other issue is about spreading awareness. We need to make sure that the knowledge about archaeology is spread. How important is it to share the knowledge about the past with others? And what are the best ways of achieving this? We have to look at that aspect as well. I think we have not done enough to spread that knowledge. Although other people are not interested, it's not that they are not interested at all, but because they don't know what is the importance of archaeology. And the coverage of archaeology in the papers, in the other media, I guess usually is the sensational issues. It's not the awareness that we would want to spread as archaeologists. It's usually about the negative aspects. We should transform that image to show the beneficial effects of archaeology. So in conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, archaeological resources are a collective resource. They are ours and yours, and therefore belong to the past, present, and future. All archaeological materials have some potential value in the present and in the future. The value and importance of archaeological heritage can only be realized by the wider public if knowledge about it is systematically disseminated. Communities also expect benefits from investment in archaeological resources, hence our conservation efforts should help to unlock that value to the public, not only to serve the interest of archaeology and academia. Benefits means that heritage can contribute to the wider agendas that I've talked about. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mpiga. In my introduction, Dr. Mpiga, I think I made only a very partial introduction. I only called him as my good friend and colleague. Dr. Mpiga is the Regional Director for Eastern Region of National Monuments, National Museums and Monuments of Zimbabwe. This presentation is touched on a number of things. Archaeological heritage has been defined for those of us who were uninitiated, so now we have a clear idea of what we'll be talking about or what we're talking about this morning. We now have a reasonably good idea of the nature of our archaeological resources, the diversity ranging from rock art sites, stone buildings, open sites, and the types of archaeological resources that are buried in or within these sites. You're looking at what I didn't know, a staggering 8,372 sites. And at the end, Dr. Mpira was in the process of underlining the importance of awareness, which awareness hopefully will increase on that 8,372 sites that we have on our records. We're also looking at the threats, which again relates very closely to our concern as far as the threats and the actual losses are in large measure perhaps a result of the lack of awareness that we would want to build. So thank you very much, Dr. Mpira. The way we are going to run these sessions is that we will not have questions or things at the end of every presentation. Presentations will run one after the other, and then at the end of the morning, towards the lunchtime, we'll then have 15 or so minutes for a general discussion. So if people have any pending issues and so on, please make a note of them and we bring them up at the end of this session just before lunch. At this point, may I then invite the Director of our Ceremonies to make a few announcements. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mpira. Thank you, Professor Pichi. I'm glad we are quite on time. So we are going to go out for our health break. We'll go at the back. May I kindly request each one of us to be wearing or putting on their tag, so for identification, so that we can all have something at health break. Thank you very much. So we should be back here at exactly 10:30 so that we keep with our time. Thank you. Oh, sorry, at 11.
First, I haven't had time to say hello. How are you? I'm super fine. Super happy to be here. Yeah, I'm Kenny Bouquet. I'm working with Ancila in Matoko on the workout project. Yeah, we're enjoying it. Yeah, not too bad. Exactly. Yeah, yeah, so it's super easy to remember for French and English. Tell me, why do I download the presentation?
Yeah, into left for 2 minutes.
Ah, good, thank you. Mapua t-shirt yenyu?
But it is mainly Oh, yeah.
What we will do is organize separate exchange. We always running.
Of course, in Africa, and the way to no problem. I've taken some some few good shots.
For me, it's okay. But the union when get Friday, it's up to yeah.
So that's fine. Thanks. Other than that, okay, the key area is the interview. Yeah, one. Anyone for to which I travel for. No, I want to do my. I want to do my backdrop. You know my show side, it's full white short. Naruk side. Because I want to put my graphics and whatever on the side. I mean, there's a guy who's in young introduce you to me. The only mission and I know try to where can I get it from? Where can I buy it from? So young Victoria is for the video, not for pictures.
So this is a 30-minute.
Okay. The 30mm. So which means with here the subject is this side. Abajeta cheze paninda it. Saka this one I want to look for Munya where I have an so that if you need anything you talk to him. But it's not I think what we might even do a lunch as well. We might even ask the guys to come to have shoot around. Better light for video. I photo shoot don't know that too. And that's very clean. It's not terrible. So let me look for me. Can we try something because we want to get us out?
Send something to me or this side now. No, it's not. Good morning, gentlemen. I'll be away, so for lunch, I'm not going to be here. So if there is anything I can do now for the interview, nothing.
Oh, it's okay. So let us do a setup for the meeting.
So they're going to start in 2 minutes. So here, so maybe you can do it out there or something.
That now depends. Maybe over there, there's the banner for user. Yeah. They use it, yeah.
There's a poster outside,
Yeah.
but it's a lot of echo. So I don't know. Sila, I may have to go. I would love to stay, but it's just I've been away for such a long time. What is there anything tonight?
Yes, there is something.
So I suppose it was Hubert supposed to go there. His what time is it? It's at the master's residence. Master's residence. It's on the
Most likely, a lot of must have
I was away. I have no idea. I was away for almost 20 days.
Oh dear, oh dear.
So all these meetings took place without me.
Yes, they were bouncing. The letters were bouncing. We were still sending them though. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, let me see. Want to do it upstairs?
After everyone is come down. Go upstairs. Upstairs over there. To the page. Later.
Hello.
Yeah.
Shall we take our seats so that we can continue?
May I kindly request that we take our seats and we resume? We are running a bit behind time. Welcome back after that well-deserved tea break. We're continuing with this session with a presentation or a joint presentation from Dr. Ansila Namo of the University of Zimbabwe and Dr. Camille Bodier, University of Toulouse, who will be making a presentation on Matobat, I would imagine that's the name of the project. Research on hunter-gatherer archaeology in the Matobo UNESCO World Heritage Landscape. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Prof. I'm Dr. Ansila Namo, and my friend here is Dr. Camille Bodier. So we are going to present on our research project, some results of our research project, which is a cooperation between Zimbabwe and France, incorporating a number of institutions, as you find out in the presentation. The thrust of our presentation is that we are looking at archaeological material from Matobo, the UNESCO World Heritage landscape. It's a landscape, it's not a site, because there are many things that are world class in it. So we are looking at archaeological heritage from the Matobo World Heritage because we want to connect scientific research and economic, social, political beneficiation, especially moving towards what our colleague Dr. Peter talked about in the morning. But the important thing is that archaeological heritage, it's a special kind of heritage because most archaeological material do not speak for themselves. So when people visit sites, when they encounter sites, when they encounter archaeological material, in most cases they do not automatically have an answer to them. In other words, the archaeological material raises questions to the viewers, especially to those who are not professional archaeologists like us. And you will find that most people, when they visit archaeological sites, they don't they just ask questions. Why is this here? When was it done? Why? I mean, where? Who did it? Why? And so on. And this is an experience that we have had, most of archaeologists, that when you get to a site, if you are working at a site like us, visitors come, they ask all sorts of questions. Now that is, our presentation is saying that it is critical for scientists, for archaeologists, to research that material, and then not just for ourselves, which is what most archaeologists follow for now, what we do as archaeologists. We research and talk between ourselves. We generate scientific information and we share it between ourselves. But now it is very critical to pass that information to the communities so that they appreciate the archaeological heritage because they get the knowledge. Also, so that they can use it and benefit from it. So our research, our presentation today is a trust of showing scientific generation of scientific knowledge and then passing it on to the generality of the public so that it can be useful. I'm showing you here one of the features that we get, a unique feature in Zimbabwe and rock art, which we call the formling, mostly because when that term was coined, people didn't know what it looked like. Just imagine somebody gets to a site and they get this. This is a very beautiful image. You should agree with me there. But when you look at it, questions come to your mind. What is it? Why was it done? Who did it? And so on. So you find that it is important for us as researchers, as scientists, to research and pass on that information. This is another site that I love, and most people love. You should love it as well. Sinozwane from Mato, and this is one of the depictions that you find at the site, where you see a combination of animal features, two different animals. This is almost what we call a serpent-like, snake-like, but it is an animal head. Somebody looks at that, they just go to the site and look at that. They don't know what it means. Raises questions. It's important for scientists to generate information and pass it on, so that our trust is the centrality of generating scientific data that is usable in the presentation and utilization of archaeological sites. Our research is based on it's an interdisciplinary research. We are just two here, but there are many others whom we cooperate with, and we are representing them today. We are working at mostly two sites in the Matobo, Pomongwe and Bambata. The research focuses on three major scientific axes. The first one is dating the emergence and characterizing the chronostylistic variation in the rock art. We are also looking at diachronic changes in the technical systems. What is why things changed? Basically, that's what we are saying, and how they changed over time. But we are also interested in generating climatic and environmental data and relating the archaeological data that we get to climatic change that happened. Because when others talk about climate change, they think that it's a very recent thing. But for archaeologists, we know that climate has always been changing. What is critical is for people to adapt, and we can learn from the past on how to adapt to certain changes. So we are also looking at that. So we are inventorying the rock art, and we are going to date, of course, to get that information on when the material were produced. We need to generate that information. Our partners are also doing new excavations and reopening excavations. We are analyzing material that is already in the museum. since 2017, we've already started looking at that. We have done an inventory of what we call painted spores, because when you look at rock art, it's on the walls for most of our sites, but over the years, weathering takes place, and the small parts of the painted walls, they fall into what we call their stratigraph, the archaeological stratigraph, and that is important for dating. We can say this fell in 7,000 years ago, so it means that the art is more than 7,000 years, and so on. So it's very critical for dating. We are doing that. We are recording 3D, 2D. We are playing with technology here. Yes, we are recording. We want to generate a comprehensive data of the sites, so that if anything happens to them, we have database, but it's also important for presentation. We want to then present the material to the public. We were also doing the same for other archaeological material in terms of excavation, in terms of analyzing material that other researchers have already collected that is in the museum. So here we have an illustration of the analysis that we do. This is a painted spore that I was talking about, which was recovered from the archaeological record. Then we analyze the pigment. We can do all sorts of analysis. I can talk until, whenever, because this is my area. But what we do is we analyze the pigment, or what we are doing is to characterize the paint. For your own information, nobody has ever managed to generate the quality of the paint that we find in the rock art. So we are analyzing that. We are also dating. We can also get dates. This is our colleague performing XRF analysis on the painted spores. We are also looking at documentation. I've already talked about that, but I want to show you something here. If you look at this image on your right, but left, yeah, I have to try and to know which side is right. On your left, you can see this is, if you go to Komongo today, this is what you will see on the walls. But with our research, with different methods, we can make the art more visible. For example, we have, you can see this is the original, but with a bit of documentation, you can begin to see what is underneath. So what it means is that Komongo is a site that is open to the public. It actually gets a lot of visitors, but the visitors for now, they can see this. But after our research, I hope we can be able to illustrate the images clearer, and there is more appreciation from the public. Most likely, more people want to visit the site. Those are excavations and analysis of stone tools. I hope I still have time because I need to play a short clip to show some of the things that we have done as part of our project. My friend here is going to feature very prominently. Unfortunately, it was shot in French, and my French is merci beaucoup, and I do not feature that much. So if you may watch, this is a very short clip that shows some of our activities.
soldiers, children, and a selection of animals, some of which have unreal features. Visitors entering these shelters have wondered at the origins and meaning behind these rock paintings left by our distant ancestors. What can they tell us? Who were their creators, and how long ago did they decorate these walls? We're in the southwest of Zimbabwe in the Matobo Hills, which contains one of the largest collections of rock art in the world. It's here that a French and Zimbabwean research team is diving into these mysterious drawings. At the Zimbabwe Museum of Human Sciences in Harare, the country's capital, scientists are investigating archaeological findings which could reveal the secrets of this art. These bone tools, this ball of string, and these pigments were unearthed in the 1960s and 70s in the site of Pomongwe, one of the numerous painted caves found in Matobo. In studying the techniques used to make these paintings and comparing them to on-site archaeological discoveries, the scientists are attempting to date the rock art. This is a particularly complex task as the walls are covered in dust and animal droppings. The researchers are using a number of tools that can reveal drawings once believed to have vanished.
Our work is ultimately to document this entire cave and then to go back through it in search of the finer details. We'll use digital tools like D-Stretch, which enables us to make color variations and find traces of pigments on the walls. So we have a lot of really important prep work in the lab, using photographs to discover things that would otherwise appear to have been erased.
High-definition photographs and other reproductions lay bare surprising elements for the rock art specialists. Contrary to ancient European cave art, which focuses largely on animals and geometric motifs, the walls of southern Africa present a wide variety of human depictions. Single-file lines of hunters equipped with bows, camp scenes, the painters act as witness to some elements of contemporary life. But the several painting phases on these walls leave the scientists with a serious issue in determining the age of the work.
We asked ourselves if this was really a snapshot of one historical moment rendered in different styles, or whether it's a collection of art accumulated over time.
Quelques superpositions qui étaient visibles afin d'essayer de comprendre.
So we're looking to see if we could pass the paintings out into different layers before trying to place the individual figures in time. But the problem is that we always work within a relative chronology in art. If we don't have a precise date for the paintings or pigments to build a timeline, it's impossible to know how much time passed between each artist.
Entre chaque passage d'artiste.
To try and reconstruct this timeline, the scientists must turn to technology. These wall fragments, unearthed in the cave of Pomongwe, carry traces of these pigments which can be analyzed in the lab. The palette of colors covers a spectrum of reds, yellows, whites, and even blacks. These rich colors also reveal clues to the painter's techniques.
Studying the artist's techniques can teach us two things. First, we can distinguish painters through the paint mixtures. We can determine the paint's precise composition through chemical analysis, which is what our colleagues are doing in a laboratory in France. By analyzing the different types of pigments and their mixtures, we can distinguish the different kinds of recipes used in the decorations. Perhaps the recipes changed over time. Another aspect is to see if there's a difference in skill. Are we looking at the work of just anybody, or is this the result of real knowledge in choosing pigments, mixing the paint, and using the tools to apply it to the wall? Was it done by finger? Was it done by brush? We might even learn what kinds of skills an artist must learn to paint like this.
Not only will they be working with chemists, The rock art specialists have also teamed up with archaeologists to attempt a better understanding of the history of Pomongwe's cave art. For nearly a month, a Franco-Zimbabwean team of researchers and students have taken up residence under Pomongwe's roof. If the paintings that adorn these walls are sometimes difficult to see with the naked eye, the cave's floor can illuminate their origins. Unlike most painted caves, the sediment of Pomongwe's floor runs 4 meters deep and may protect archaeological artifacts beneath. The team patiently excavates the cave, both to validate the discoveries of their archaeological predecessors and potentially unearth new clues to understanding the cave's paintings. This sediment contains balls of stone fallen from the walls. Some carry traces of paint. A bottom to help of geologic timetables linked to the depths at which these falls are discovered, it's possible for the archaeologists to confirm the existence of the paintings at specific periods of time.
We have this separation between the later Stone Age, the last 15 millennia, and the Middle Stone Age. We started here and continues for the next 3 meters. We discovered an incredible quantity of granite fragments from the Middle Stone Age, and then the accumulation of sediment speeds up, and we have a reduction in the number of granite fragments over time. The thing about this upper layer is that some fragments have paint on them, so their connection to different paintings enables us to place these paintings on a timeline relative to the rest. Today, we're able to place these paintings within the later Stone Age, the first of them being 10 to 13,000 years old.
This timeline, reaching back over 10,000 years, could make Pomongwe's cave art the oldest in Africa. It also presents the wide variety of motifs and styles found in the other Matogo caves.
The elements we've unearthed clearly demonstrate that the people here possess a depth of complex knowledge in handling the materials they had available. They also had a system of self-representation, symbolism that shows their concerns transcended reproduction and survival. The humanity demonstrated in these paintings is one that's very much recognizable today.
These archaeological discoveries could make Pomongwe the key to understanding the stylistic timeline for all similar paintings in the region. This research is also another way to gain insight into a culture long considered remote from our own.
Thank you. I'm going to give my co-presenter time to present shortly our results and also conclude. Thank you.
Thanks, Cynthia. So I'm just gonna let you give you a few elements of the results of the first mission that was last year, just to highlight the importance of funding archaeological research on one hand, and on training new young generations of archaeologists on the other hand, to provide new accurate documentation on these archaeological sites, because without documentation, for sure, there will be no dissemination and no preservation. So everything starts with documentation, to me and to us, I believe. So the 2018 mission included for the rock art and associated remains studies, recorded tracing of one section of the back wall, overlooking Walker's trench, right? So Walker is one of the previous excavators at Pomongwe. The objective was there to provide a first stylistic sequence with elements of relative chronology to be completed, enhanced, and precised by the next missions. It also included physical-chemical characterization of a set of rock painting samples. The objective there was to determine and differentiate the painting recipes and to define the impact of dusting and alteration in the cave. It also included physical-chemical characterization of a set of spores from this Walker's Trench 5, and to finish, a first morphological characterization of Walker's Trench 5 pigments as, as a work of master's research conducted here at UZ by Jonathan, who is present here today in the room. So Trench 5 panel develops, as you can see, high above the actual ground level. And in this section, before our tracing recording work, there was only a frieze of humans that was mentioned by Cook. And that was all for the previous inventory. So with our work, done in 2018, we revealed the unsuspected richness of this rock painting section with, it's always difficult to count in English for me, 59 identified motifs, including 45 humans engaged in different actions, so that you can see on this slide. So 4 human morphotypes have been identified, as well as 4 different shades of paint, which testifies to a relative stylistic homogeneity and a probable diachrony of realization. Concerning the material studies, the physical-chemical analysis of painting spores. So the spores were sorted in 7 different groups regarding the color and texture. And they went through some various analysis. I won't go through details. Just to let you know the very important result of it is that these analyses allow the recognition of colored layers, which could probably be painting. And these spores that were analyzed last year, they come from one of the first units from the LSA sequence of occupation of the site. We call the unit, workers call the unit 13, which is, let's say, minimum 10,000 years ago. So just let you know that how old these paintings could be, because this is a minimum age, because as you can imagine, we can date more or less the time that the fragment of rock paintings fell into the archaeological layers, but we have no idea of the time span between the realization of this motif and when this motif fell into the archaeological layers. So that's a minimum age of 10,000 years old for some of these spores, especially the red one, the M86, which is up high. Also, the mission included the study of the chronocultural sequence of occupation, with the reopening of two trenches from previous excavations, Cook's Trench 1 and Walker's Trench 5, to check and complete the stratigraphic sequences. The objective was to evaluate the archaeosequence integrity and to control and precise the LSA sequence in correlation with the analysis made on the painting remains, spores, and pigments. So profiles of both trenches were unearthed, recorded through photogrammetry, so 3D, and traced. This fieldwork confirmed the quality of this LSA sequence, which offers exceptional sedimentary resolution and organic preservation. Correlations with Walker's stratigraphy were checked. During this campaign were taken 12 OSL samples for dating, also micromorphological blocks and sediment samples for paleobotanic, paleo-environmental, and paleoclimatic analysis. The study of the chronocultural sequence of occupation also included material studies Three of them specifically are master's research for two of them and PhD research for the third one. So there was the analysis, useful analysis of that Holocene microlithic back tools from one master student from UZ, Precious Manzanisi. Also, master's research on MSA, LSA, crystal quartz technology by Joseph Materbo, who's a former student from UZ, and he's now in Wits University in Johannesburg. And the third one is a French one, Marc Thomas, who's doing a PhD on a technological analysis of lithics as well from another period. So it's all going on pretty well. We are super happy actually with the first results. As you can see, there's a lot to be generated just with a small mission of 1 month, which is pretty short actually. And this is all we expect for the final results of this program. So detailed record of the rock images of the two sites, Pomongwe and Pombata. A detailed record of the Stone Age material, especially painted spores, pigments, and lithics. And of course, publicity of archaeological resources in the Matopo through conferences, documentaries, and also a website, which is currently on the process of realization. A website on Zimbabwe rock art, made by some students, master students from the University of Toulouse, and also, which is at the very core of this program, a training of students in different aspects of archaeological research, from honors to PhDs, and training of students from both countries, Zimbabwe and France as well. And to conclude, many thanks, Maitabasa, Siavonga, from the whole team. This is not the whole team, some of the faces of the team. And for sure, many thanks to the funders. Because with no funding, there will be nothing between our two countries. So thanks for your attention.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Angela and Camille.
Well, as I said, everyone, we are a little behind time. Thank you very much to the two presenters. We want to move straight on to Dr. Mnyazi Mwanyanga of the University of Zimbabwe, who will be talking on or presenting on archaeology and development in Zimbabwe.
Thank you very much, Professor Pitti. Good morning, colleagues. My challenge this morning has been made much easier because I'm presenting after all the hard hitters have done their presentations. So you will hear me say, as Dr. Mpira was saying, or as Camille and Ansila were saying, because some of the issues that they've already discussed also relate to my own presentation. I'm going to talk about the archaeological heritage, innovation, and sustainable development, and try to situate the archaeological resources of the country, of Zimbabwe, into the national development agenda. How can that fit in? I'm looking at different policies which talk to the developmental issues that may derive from our archaeological resources. The richness of Zimbabwe's archaeological heritage has been emphasized by colleagues. I will not get into detail in as far as that is concerned, because that was much of what Dr. Peter was talking about, and also what Camille and Ansila were talking about, and which other also presenters have alluded to earlier on. But it is an extremely rich heritage. But within the same context of that rich heritage, you still also see components of what you can call poverty. One may not just start by looking at the rich archaeological resources, but also the rich natural resources. So when you look at Zimbabwe, it's a country with so many endowments, natural and cultural, but still we are dealing with issues of poverty. So as part of my discussion is to try to see how cultural resources may actually contribute to poverty eradication, beneficiation of communities, which is at the heart of development. I will go historical to talk about the policies and attitudes and perceptions of different governments in Zimbabwe, and the emphasis being that archaeological resources have always been a priority. At the highest level of discussion and policy making, they have always been a priority. And probably where there is that disjuncture, it's on issues of implementation. So here, I'm looking at the colonial government, the British South African Company. I'm looking at the colonial government, the responsible government. Even one is to look at the government of the UDI, where again, issues of Great Zimbabwe were important. Issues of archaeological resources were important. But their purpose, right, the way they used archaeological resources was for a different purpose altogether. It was for a different purpose altogether. And as far as they are concerned, that was part of the development agenda of that particular government. My emphasis here is simply to show that in terms of policy making, archaeological resources have always been at the center. And some of you may recall how, for example, Cecil Rhodes hired archaeologists to come and write on Great Zimbabwe. But the development trajectory was completely different. It was meant to give a particular community an advantage over others. It was meant also to deny the local communities their inheritance, their heritage. Again, soon after, certain aspirations from the different governments. They're looking at archaeological resources, they're looking at heritage, they're looking at the past, with the idea that the misrepresentation of the colonial period will be corrected, in which they saw the new independence bring a new future, a perspective, and indeed a new history in the past. The time to set the record straight, to seek out and to renew our past. So it was quite central in terms of policy, in terms of how they looked at issues of heritage. And more recently, we see again a government trying to promote the heritage sector, the teaching of arts, culture, and heritage studies, which they see as having potential to contribute to the growth of the country's gross domestic product. The issue of Agenda 2063 has been made reference to by other colleagues as well. I will not get into details of that, but at a continental level, issues of culture, issues of heritage is of paramount importance. The thrust being that it must cascade and bring development to the wider community. When one takes a historical perspective to the whole issue of development, one will note that there has always been pronunciations. Governments have supported institutions like the National Museum and Monuments of Zimbabwe, National Art Gallery, and other memory institutions, universities. We've seen master plans being produced for resource conservation and development. We've also seen even the establishment of a ministry on preservation of cultural heritage and rural development. Many of us got very excited as we thought that, wow, it has finally happened. Heritage is going to be part of rural development, and by extension, national development. There are national policies, continental programs, the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, all makes reference to issues of culture and heritage. And of course, currently in the country, we've got our own Vision 2030. So, heritage is quite central to all these development initiatives. Within the educational institution, we have a doctrine. I've tried to read it. It is a doctrine. It's called Education 5.0, whose philosophy seems to emphasize on what they call heritage-based higher education, higher and tertiary education that should generate knowledge, which results in goods and services. A very interesting doctrine, where it is very specific. The doctrine has even defined heritage for us. Many of us are not familiar with that definition, but the doctrine emphasizes that development should be based or should be rooted in our natural environment endowments. When I was reading it, I was wondering, what of our cultural heritage endowments? I couldn't avoid going back to check also the tidbits which are coming from social media and other media platforms. And these, in my opinion, have got serious implications for archaeology. What matters is not really what they say. To me, what matters is the reflection of the perceptions that do exist at different levels: policy, politicians. And again, this left me with some thoughts in as far as the position of the discipline of archaeology is concerned. Is it under siege? There has also been talk of useless and useful degrees. Again, cause for concern. I can see my colleagues are saying, can you talk about innovation, technology, and development? When we look at our artifacts, when we look at the monuments, when we look at the cultural landscapes, all those represent past communities' ingenuity. It's the creativity, it is the innovation. We've seen that from the project that has been done in the Matobo cultural landscape. We've heard that as well from Dr. Mpira about the amazing levels of innovation that the archaeological record portrays. It covers so many things. When an archaeologist is dealing with the material culture, basically what he or she is dealing with issues of innovation and technology. We're looking at the material traces, the tools, metallurgy, engineering, architecture, production, issues of cuisine, transport, medicine, pharmacology, urbanism, what you can call, the list is endless, which define what you can call today civilization, what you can call today innovation and development. I cannot talk about rock art when colleagues have done that, when the two colleagues who were in front have spoken about that. What I would like to emphasize is that it was not just the innovation to do with material things, but also innovation to do with cognitive issues, in which aspects of people's belief systems, aspects of people's experiences were expressed in art. The lithics, they have been a major technological innovation. I'm sure some of you remember where there was some sense that the Stone Age, they were not good enough for them. They made bigger ones, which we refer to as the garden roller bits, which again shows an element of ingenuity, innovation, improvisation, in terms of they tailor-made products to suit their needs. So again, what I'm emphasizing here are issues of development, which are at the heart of our pre-colonial societies. Issues of adaptation and issues of adaptation to local realities. The club that was also important, the most familiar, most popular, was the colored club, especially during the time of the Portuguese. But that was only a complement. It came only to complement local cloth, which was also made from fiber, which they harvested from areas like Zambezi Valley and also the Limpopo Valley. Again, past societies were well aware that years will not be the same. They stored food because they were very much aware of the variability in terms of the weather patterns. So food storage was a key component, again, which demonstrates the innovation of these pre-colonial societies. Even the movement to domestication, it was part of the development path and the innovation that is associated with our past societies. Probably as a lesson, we are a country who understand the word foreign currency so much. We may probably learn from these past societies who are very knowledgeable, creative, very adaptive. What they did is that they produced what they consumed. They produced what they wanted to use. And these past civilizations were really anchored on adaptation to local realities. Whilst I'm talking about the whole issue of development, it is an issue that means different things to different people. For others, it must bring economic benefit. For others, they think of social benefits. I'll try to touch on both. I'll try to look at the role of the historical built environment to promoting economic growth and also as an agent of social development. The first thing that should happen within our country is that we need to treat archaeological heritage as a resource. Just as a resource, like the way we treat our parks and its biodiversity, our mineral wealth, our favorable climatic environment. We need to look at them as a resource that can be used as a framework on which we should leverage sustainable social and economic development. Something has to happen to the legislation because the current legislation is old and tired. It looks at archaeological resources as relics and monuments and ruins. We probably need also to change our mindset in as far as our perception of heritage is concerned. Some colleagues may be familiar with the heritage life cycle, which looks at understanding the heritage, valuing it, caring for it, enjoying it. Probably within that cycle, we need to add another component, which is to use sustainably. These cultural features do not exist merely as bandages, as badges of identity, to which we have some emotional attachment. They must exist to meet the necessities and purposes of human life. Issues of cultural tourism, we've talked about that. Probably our premier tourist destination, premier cultural tourism development destination is Great Zimbabwe. There is an opportunity there for investment, providing leisure, recreation, and education. Recently, we have had policy statements which imply that the government wishes to tap into the low-hanging fruit as part of its development trajectory. Here are the cultural resources like Great Zimbabwe, Kano, Matobo, Mapera, and many other resources which exceed 8,000, which we can make use of. They are there, they are available. What is required is maybe a little bit of giving them a taste of Africa, hospitality, access to make it happen. But they are the low-hanging fruit. Great Zimbabwe is an exceptional site. It's a World Heritage Site. So that is a key component if we are to see or to realize economic benefits from our cultural resources. What Ancilla and Camille were talking about in the morning are issues of value addition that we do as archaeologists. What Dr. Mpira was talking about are issues of value addition to our cultural resources, archaeological resources. The research, the identification, the interpretation, the conservation, the documentation, it's part of value addition to make our cultural resources have meaning. These are the tools that those who do marketing should take on. Without that value addition, there is no archaeological resource to talk about. So it becomes very critical that that is also done. We have seen in the country different projects being undertaken in different parts of the country. In northern Zimbabwe, in eastern Zimbabwe, southern Zimbabwe, in western Zimbabwe, in central Zimbabwe, we've seen a number of projects which have produced quality research, which is part of the value addition to our archaeological resources. We've dealt with different issues of the development of the state, early state systems, our Great Zimbabwe, our Changavire states, Tapa, and many other states in Southern Africa. And for those who have been following the debates, there has been a lot of excitement in as far as the Zimbabwe culture is concerned. For others who watch wrestling, they've been saying it's akin to a Royal Rumble. And probably this is one aspect that has been confusing to others who are not part of the archaeological fraternity. It's all done in the spirit of generating new knowledge on the Zimbabwe culture, which is part of the value addition. But again, new data, new perspectives, new excitement, not only for archaeologists, but also for the visiting public. We have much more information to tell our visitors. We have got much more information for our entrepreneurs to come and take advantage of the developments in terms of knowledge production that has been ongoing. Of course, this coming, that has been talked about. And again, one issue that has been topical is the issue of the Nyanga cultural landscape, where the debates have been whether it's agriculture or mining. I saw Anne Kinsner around a little while ago, and she's one of the people who are arguing strongly that we could be looking at mining. And again, when the debates are conducted, for non-archaeologists, which I agree totally with Ansila that we have to start talking to each other. Is it a question of 6 or 9? Is it 6 or 9? The other one, agriculture. Okay, from the point of view, from where they are standing. Another one, mining. Okay, from the way they are standing. But again, much of this debate is to assist, right, in value addition, in bringing excitement and interest in our archaeological resources. I can't talk of the Matopo. Excuse me, I have to skip on that. But also another component on value addition is issues of conservation. Our sites have been there for a while, and some of them go through natural decay. It is our responsibility again as archaeologists to add value by restoring them. To add value by restoring them. We've seen work at Nalitale, at Danangombe, at Zinjanja. We've also seen work at Kabi. We've also seen work at Great Zimbabwe. And all this is part of value addition, which is at the heart of what archaeologists do. When we add value, we think that visitors, tourists, will have a better experience. When we add value, we expect creators, we expect script writers, we expect other specialist movie directors to come and get inspiration from some of this work. Rock art conservation is also part of how we add value, especially the documentation. When I was reading about Vision 2030, I got the impression that it wants to be a knowledge economy, where universities are supposed to contribute knowledge, where universities are supposed to be centers of knowledge, and universities are supposed to provide access to this knowledge to a wider community. Especially here at the University of Zimbabwe. I think myself and a number of colleagues, we haven't given up on the hope that we may end up with a beautiful University of Zimbabwe Knowledge Center, which looks, I think, as it is on the slide, where we do knowledge creation, where we complement the knowledge hubs and industrial parks, where we will be open to the public, where we protect intellectual property rights, where we support incubation centers. As we produce knowledge, this knowledge needs to be known by a wider public. And it is where the innovation, the creativity will come from, which may drive various sectors of the economy. But at the moment, those people with ideas, because we create knowledge, we may not have the skills to be entrepreneurs. We may not have the skills to be designers. We may not have the skills to be engineers. We need people to take up on some of these ideas. And this can only be done if we have these knowledge centers. Others, universities have done that, and I've got a couple of examples to show where these are important knowledge centers. Another aspect of development to do with our archaeological resources refers to the pre-development impact assessments that are done. When pre-development impact assessments are done, they are not meant to stifle development. They are part of development facilitation. They are part of the ease of doing business, and they are also part of resource addition. But if they are not done as part of pre-development, they become a challenge to the developers. They frustrate developers, they frustrate communities because their heritage is destroyed, and in the end result, they ask the question, development for whom? So it is important that these are done, and again, issues of legislation, it's important that it actually caters for the issue of pre-development impact assessment. I'll look at the example of an impact assessment that I did with some other colleagues here from the University of Zimbabwe, that of the development associated with the Zimplats mining project, the expansion project, and the construction of the island dam. In terms of value addition,
we added new sites. And it's a new resource which the mine could use as well. But again, it's the use of these sites for recreation. It's something that again needs legislative adjustments. For those in business, heritage is such an important consideration. I've got the example here which I've taken from our neighboring country, South Africa, in the past few years when they were doing mining development. I'm looking at the behavior of the stock markets, especially that of Coal of Africa, a company which is developing coal mines near the Mapungubwe cultural landscape. The story has not been nice in as far as the mining fraternity in South Africa is concerned. There has been so much concern with the environment and so much concern with issues of heritage. And you can see right from the beginning, with a very high share price, with the hope and prospects, the share price is really tumbled. And well, there are other factors to do with the price of coal and other things, but also the little bumps that you see were basically a response to some positive feedback coming from the heritage sector. They did not do the heritage impact assessment properly. So again, it has a bearing on development, as not doing these things properly for listed companies, it can actually have devastating effects on issues of share price. There are others who talk of capital injection. We need an investment. But that can only happen at heritage places if due care is taken to manage and balance the developmental needs of the communities and also heritage conservation. I'm using here the example of Great Zimbabwe, whereby when you look at the land use planning around Great Zimbabwe, it has taken little consideration into issues of heritage. The heritage values, the land values, for example, if you are to move from Great Zimbabwe to Masvingo CBD, you realize that the value that is attached to the monument is not reflected in the land values. It's probably having some of the cheapest land available, probably, if one is to look at what has been happening in recent years. Here I'm thinking of heritage places attracting direct capital for people who want to invest in property markets, in the tourism industry, and many other aspects. I can contrast the high investment that places like Cape Town, the Table Mountain, is attracted vis-a-vis what has happened to our own Great Zimbabwe National Monument. We need to take cognizance of the neoliberal policy economies with their focus on gentrification, and we ask the question, whose development? I'm not suggesting here that we must completely eradicate our own local communities from this. But as we try to attract capital injection into our national monuments or around our national monuments, that should have a bearing on the beneficiation of local communities. There is the case of Mapela in southern Zimbabwe, where currently the government of Botswana, South Africa, and Zimbabwe are developing a new border post. I think it's functional by now. But in terms of resources of the area, it is very limited. It is one of the poorest areas, but it does have archaeological resources in the form of Mapela site and many other sites. Mapela was a major political capital, and in that context, it may be helpful in terms of development planning for those policymakers to incorporate Mapela into the development trajectory, so that it becomes the resource which could uplift the quality of life of the people. Impressive stonewalling, impressive history, and impressive narrative. Another component or the advantage that we have with Mapela and the development in southern Zimbabwe is that this is a site that could be built into existing attractions, especially developments to do with greater Mapungubwe Trans-Frontier Conservation Area. Again, heritage can be inspiration for major business startups in entertainment, education, leisure, and other productive sectors. I'm sure for those who are local, you remember the local drama Triparo, very much inspired by cultural heritage. Of course, there's a blockbuster, The Black Panther. I'm sure many of you have watched it. Such an inspiring movie, which some think that is built on an imaginary or deriving from the Mutapa state. So somebody told me. But again, these are blockbusters which have grossed billions of dollars, which are inspired by archaeological resources and heritage. Inspiration to do with architecture, different structures, impressive structures, unique structures, issues of cuisine. The list is long. I can speak and relate to how heritage can actually inspire economic development. But it will be incomplete if I don't refer to social development. And my other colleagues have talked about this at great length. There's only one aspect that I need to talk about. That is the new or the independent Zimbabwe state attempts to develop. We need to take cognizance of its history and where it's coming from, where colonialism resulted in a loss of meaning and a loss of self-belief. It has resulted, especially cultural imperialism, has resulted in an element of self-hate and self-pity. There is need for a change in mindset, and heritage can provide inspiration. As in my opinion, you can't have a nation which can develop when it's full of self-pity and an assumption that somebody from somewhere will carry the burden of rescuing it. We've seen from archaeology that the pre-colonial people produced and developed their own environments. The narrative has to change if we are to change that mindset. The challenge that archaeologists do have is to develop a narrative to decolonize the African past, to decolonize African archaeology. And as the popular African proverb, which is quite popularly used these days, until the lion lays to right, every story will glorify the hunter. There is a duty for archaeologists. That sense of meaning, which one of the hunter gatherers emphasized, that kind of hunger, I think it is still there. We need to have a sense of self-meaning, and that can only come with a detailed interpretation of our archaeological past. We need to decolonize the knowledge of the African past. We need to bring back confidence to the African to think that development is possible. Issues of social development, identity, cohesion, conflict resolution, regional integration, we should be talking of xenophobia if we are aware of our history as a region. This has been touched on by my other colleagues. But as we pursue our discipline, we deal with communities. And one of the key things that we do as we interact with communities is we're building an element of empowerment in them. As they deal with other communities, other development agents, these communities are ready to engage because of the familiarity with the archaeological, anthropological, and historical community that give familiarity to them. But a lot needs to be done if this is to be achieved. The laws have to change. We have to integrate cultural resources into the national development agenda. We need to continue to develop critical thinkers to propel the world and address issues of contemporary relevance. We have to decolonize archaeology. We have to develop an archaeology with community needs at heart. We have to develop a curriculum that is integrated with other disciplines. We have also to deal with agenda setting discourses, climate change, migration, food production, technology, innovation, and development. We need legislative changes to see a more inclusive Cultural Heritage Resources Act, which gives rights to communities. But also we need to see the establishment of knowledge centers at our universities and many other relevant places. And all these, one thing I can say is that it's still work in progress in the different aspects. We need, again, also to be multidisciplinary in research. We need institutional collaboration, and we need integration of archaeological resources in the planning process. At times, this becomes a delicate process, which at times I think it's like sibling rivalry. I think that we have got a lot more to build on bringing development to heritage if we were to work together. Maybe for the things that I have said and what my colleagues have been saying, maybe it's too little still for the policymakers. I think, again, we can learn from the African problem that little, or that which looks so little, and maybe not so significant to feature prominently in policy documents, it's something that's very significant. It is my hope that by the end of this symposium, we could or we can situate archaeological resources and cultural heritage into our development trajectory. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Manyang. I am overwhelmed by the length and breadth of this presentation. That did on so many different dimensions, aspects, and so on. We now move on to the next presentation, Dr. Alejandro Sarmiento from the Museum of Human Evolution in Spain.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you very much. I'm going to organize my presentation in 3 units. As a first step, I'm going to show a general view about Atapuerca system. Secondly, I will share my personal ideas about the role of museums today, and I will finish talking about evolution and culture as a revolution process. The archaeological sites of Atapuerca are in the north of Spain, just 200 kilometers from Madrid and 150 kilometers from Bilbao. Therefore, it's possible to get there in 2 hours from 2 of the most important cities of Spain. The archaeological sites are close to Burgos, a medium-sized city with 180,000 citizens. Burgos is well known for another 2 heritage treasures, the Burgos Cathedral and Pilgrim's Way. The importance and magnitude of the archaeological sites has brought the need for a new management techniques in order to manage the site effectively. We call it the Atapuerca system, and it's an integrated system that brings together all the institutions working towards common goals on the Atapuerca project. This system, with the Human Evolution Museum taking the leading role, is made up of dependent, linked, and associated centers. We consider dependent centers to be the visitor reception centers of Atapuerca and Ideas de Juarros, which are in charge of receiving and directing visitors to the Atapuerca Mountain Archaeological Site and the Archaeological Park. Linked centers, which carry a task more specifically related to the museum, are centers such as the Spanish National Research Center for Human Evolution. This center, for example, helps to manage the museum collections and make sure that all the exhibitions of the museum, both permanent or temporary, are correctly cared for. Among the linking centers which help to strengthen and support the Human Evolution Museum's cultural agenda are the University of Burgos and the Atapuerca Foundation. Specifically, the University of Burgos plays a supporting role in the management of the museum collections and works hand in hand with the museum on joint research projects. The Atapuerca Foundation, on the other hand, participates in the management of the museum spaces and visitors to support and add momentum to the Integrate Atapuerca knowledge-based project. It's also very involved in providing educational materials and information about museum events to the public. The origin of the first Europeans has inspired a huge interest in the scientist community. Up to 1994, archaeologists had found evidence of human activity in Spain, France, and Italy, date around 1 million years ago, but they were not human remains, only animal bones and stone tools. The first Neanderthal fossils were discovered in the 19th century in the Neanderthal in Germany. In the early 1990s, several scientists still defended the idea that the first colonization of Europe took place around 500,000 years ago. However, in 1994, the archaeological sites of Atapuerca closed the discussion once and for all, when the oldest fossils of hominids of Western Europe were found there. In an article published in the journal Science, the Spanish researchers said the new finding was around 400,000 years older than other remains. In Atapuerca, different species were found: Homo antecessor, Homo heidelbergensis, Homo neanderthalensis, and Homo sapiens. The idea of building the museum came up 10 years ago, when the archaeological sites of Atapuerca were given the World Heritage status by the UNESCO. This museum maybe has been one of the most important cultural projects in Spain in the last years. The museum is located in the center of Burgos, a city in the north of Spain. It's the only museum of the world that is specialized in human evolution, and its permanent exhibition shows the original fossils of the main discoveries that were found in Atapuerca. The museum was built by Juan Navarro Valderberg. The building is designed as a diaphanous space. The external landscape recreates the serial files and the vegetation of Atapuerca. The museum tells us the history of human evolution, using a dynamic and open approach based on scientific data provided by a wide range of disciplines. The principal challenge of the museum has been to translate the scientific knowledge of human evolution into an exciting experience that invites visitors also to think about the future of human being and the environment. The museum allows the visitors to move freely around. However, we recommend to organize the visit in different steps. As you can imagine, we recommend to start the visit with the experience of having a close look at the original fossil remains. The next step presents the evolution in biological terms. We focus on Darwin and Ramón y Cajal, two of the most eminent scientists in history. On one side, Darwin's expedition in the Beagle and his theory of evolution. On the other, Ramón y Cajal investigations about the working of nervous system. We explain also the biological evolution of the human species over the last 1 million years shown through structural reproductions made by Elizabeth Daines. The itinerary explains the role of tools, fire, language, art, and other great achievements of prehistoric humans. There is also a large space dedicated to the origins of art, social organization, and symbolic works that features the human brain and human culture. The visit ends on the top floor of the museum, showing 3 of the ecosystems that have had the greatest impact on human evolution: the tropical rainforest, the savanna, the tundra, and taiga. As you know, the gradual humanization of the natural environment is the key to understanding our domination of nature today. However, the museum is not a substitute for the experience of discovering the archaeological sites of Atapuerca. Instead, it complements that experience, encouraging visitors to go there, taking a bus that leaves from the museum. Moreover, the museum, the system is completed with 2 centers. Firstly, the Archaeological Site Access Center in Ibeas de Juarros. It was opened in March of 2012. This center is another access point for the Atapuerca Mountain Archaeological Site. The building is considered a meeting and information exchange point. Guide visits to the archaeological site depart from this building. Secondly, the Experimental Archaeology Center of Atapuerca, which has a range of educational resources available for visitors, based on solid scientific research explained in easy-to-understand terms. Visitors are invited to learn firsthand what life was like in the Paleolithic, Neolithic, and Middle Age. The center has 2 zones. Inside, visitors can try, experience, and learn firsthand about the fundamentals and working procedures of experimental archaeology. This is a very hands-on and participative visit, where we discover key aspects of human evolution through experimental archaeology. How stone was chipped to make tools, how and why caves were painted. You will hang with spears, propellers, and arrows, and you will discover the secret of fire making. The permanent exhibition is complemented by a complete program of activities that link the research about human evolution to the present through temporary exhibitions, workshops, conferences. We want to become not just an archaeology museum, we want to be a new aura for the new century. The museum should be considered as an agora, with a real capacity to change the society in a positive way. For that reason, it should be a space for educational and cultural interaction. Therefore, an ideal place to exchange ideas and facilitate dialogue between knowledge, culture, and life. More than 3 million visitors during the first 8 years are a good proof of the interest that exists around the museum and its contents. The museum has also put into action a French program which already has 1,000 members. Atapuerca's project developed the city concept of Burgos. The idea of evolution was chosen for the purposes of the European Capital of Culture. The program and its overall concept, revolution, reflect the human evolution complex and the archaeological side. Atapuerca presents the complete sequence of human evolution, explaining the effects of climate change and providing a panoramic vision of the development of technology and communication in the building of our societies. The project could reflect our journey through human history that starts in Atapuerca and continues with over 1,000 years of urban development in the city of Burgos. Evolution is an important theme for the 21st century. Just as evolution in the medieval and the industrial age was a result of major external change, so the current tides of globalization, urbanization, and economic process are transforming cities in Europe. Culture is an important part of the evolution, not just as a new source of meaning and economic activity for cities, but also as an essential enabler of change. Culture is not just a product of the human life, but an essential shaper of cities and their citizens. This project will drive change, both fast and gradual, not only evolution. We talk about revolution, which must face forward while linking our bridge between past, present, and future. Our revolution means that Burgos will evolve into a culturally creative and dynamic city. Why do us believe in the revolution process? First of all, because our city is privileged to be the center of human evolution in Europe. Human evolution and the evolution of cities are things which are critical for Europe as a whole. European society seeks a more sustainable path, and Burgos aims to act as a model for development. Evolution implies both change and continuity. Cities need to transform the heavy burden of its heritage into a creative resource for the future. We try to use it as a reference for the future development of our city. Through the concept of revolution, we combine the ideas of creativity and heritage as an input. Burgos was a city at the crossroads. Burgos will have to deal with important challenges in the coming years in order to complete this process, to become a vital and revitalized city, which may inspire the new Europe of cities, creativity, and human values. Burgos has always been a major center of human development, trade, and interaction. The region houses the oldest human remains in Europe at Atapuerca, and is one of the most biodiversity habitats in Europe. Burgos is the origin of the Spanish, a language spoken by more than 400 million people from diverse cultural backgrounds, and it's a critical point along the Pilgrim Way. Since 1960, the city has emerged as a successful industrial center. The city is also at the crossroads in time. having helped to create the current globalization economy, we now perceive a future which it may well pose a threat. The skills which have served us in the past may no longer be enough to deal with the challenges posed by the 21st century. As an example, our economy is heavily dependent on the car manufacturing industry, something that cannot be sustainable and which has allowed car component manufacturers to relocate production to other countries. The city of Burgos will not be saved by its rich and glorious past, and currently prosperous economic model when jobs are relocated to other parts of the world. Our revolution provides a much needed opportunity to launch our city into a new phase of change through evolution. As a city, we are no strangers to change. We have evolved through many periods of growth, decline, and resurgence, all of which have imprinted their trace on our city and added to its cultural DNA. This influence has developed through trade and communication with Europe and the rest of the world, giving the city an open and enterprising character. Our relative prosperity in this modern age is based on such processes of exchange along with the preservation and valorization of our past. Now, once again, Burgos faces a moment in history where we must react to a new external environment or face decline, a challenge faced by many other cities in Europe. Lacking the economies of scale and the advantages of attraction of larger and better connected or better situated cities, we need to rethink ourselves in the global economy and manage the transition from manufacturing into the new sectors of the knowledge and creativity economies. The change demands more than an economic shift. It requires the focus of the city to change from attracting firms and industries to attracting and retaining people and talent. Culture must be at the heart of this transformation. Culture provides the essential raw materials on which social evolution depends: tolerance, creativity, knowledge, and understanding. By developing culture, the city can strengthen its social fabric and human potential in such a way that the most extrinsic benefits of economic growth and improved image flow as a consequence of cultural development. The major strength of Burgos has been its role as a vibrant center for human activity over 1,000 years. The city has a rich history which illuminates key phases in human and urban evolution. To sum it up, Atapuerca is a factor to creation of employment, economic growth, and cultural development in the region. Currently, 60 people work directly in the Atapuerca system, and more than 1,000 jobs was created based on the project. The opening of the museum has supposed a substantial increase in the number of visits, making the Atapuerca system one of the most important tourist resources in the region of Castilla y León, with nearly 6 million visits from the beginning. The Museum of Human Evolution is an important factor in the local economy of Burgos. So, in 2011, a study by the consulting firm Deloitte placed the economic impact left by tourists who visited the museum at more than 25 million euros in 1 year. Social networks and the development of new technologies is another example of the identity marks of the Atapuerca system. We currently have more than 100,000 followers among Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Dr. Samir. I said I keep getting overwhelmed. I think that was awesome. It was overwhelming, all the way from human evolution to modern growth of the city. Thank you very much. I think are coming to the end of part of this session, and there are proposed changes to how we are going to work the rest of the day. And I would want to hand over to the Director of Ceremonies for that one.
Thank you, our speaker. Thank you, Professor. May I start by kindly requesting if we have any representative from the Ministry of Environment, Tourism and Hospitality with us today. Let me recognize a representative from the Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education. And may I also request if we've got any representative from the Ministry of Sports, Arts and Recreation. And is Mr. Albert Chineza, culture consultant, here with us? Oh, thank you very much. Welcome. So the changes, then we shall have a health break, and then we go for lunch, so that we are back here on time to move on to Oscar. Thank you. So we move on to Oscar Mtinkulu, and then we move on to our afternoon speakers, especially the Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education. So the primary and secondary education have requested to speak at exactly 2 o'clock so that they can dash back to other resources. So those are the changes that we're going to have. So I think we can, Jonathan, are they ready so that people can stretch and we have lunch? And we should be back here by exactly the hour. Thank you.